Good afternoon, students. Welcome to Lattice Theory live lectures. In this lecture, we will discuss about uh, distributive lattice, not necessarily finite, and we also prove that any distributive lattice is isomorphic to ring of sets. For finite case, we already proved it, and in this class, we will see now even any distributive lattice may be finite or infinite. In the this is also isomorphic to ring of sets. Okay, so let me go here now. So as we will prove Stone's theorem, what it says is the following. So first I will state that result, then we will see the what is important. So let L be a distributive lattice. Let L be a distributive lattice. Uh, let I be an ideal, okay, and D be a dual ideal, okay, of L, such that I intersection D is empty. Okay, then there exists a prime ideal P such that P contains I and P intersection D is empty. Okay, this is the theorem. You can call it this theorem as uh, Stone's theorem or Stone's separation theorem. We will see why it is called separation theorem. Okay, fine. So what it says is that whenever you have an ideal and a dual ideal, okay, whose intersection is empty, then there is always a prime ideal containing I not intersecting D. Okay, so let's see pictorially what it says is that suppose you have an ideal I, suppose assume that this is an ideal I and this is an ideal dual ideal D. Okay, this is dual ideal such that their intersection is empty. Okay, they don't have any element in common. Then it says that there exists a prime ideal P, this is prime ideal, such that P contains this I, but P is not intersecting D. So why we call it as separation? You can see that this P actually separating this I and D, right? Is this picture clear? Yes or no? Huh? What this says? If we have a ideal and a dual ideal which are not intersecting, then there exists a prime ideal which separates both of them, and of course that prime ideal contains this I. Okay, are you following? Fine. So let's prove this. Okay, so how we will prove? The idea is, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Okay, now the idea is we want to get a prime ideal containing I but not intersecting this one. So whenever we want to prove such things, we have seen several times, we take the help of John's lemma. Okay, how we apply John's lemma? We take all ideals, suppose J containing I such that J intersection D is empty. Then we form a poset and we take any chain there and show that every chain has an upper bound. So that will have a maximal element, and that maximal element will be our required ideal. Okay, so we will start with, so consider chi, which is nothing but what should be our set? You take J, okay, an ideal of L. This is an ideal such that what should be the condition? This should satisfy this condition. Okay, that means J should contain I and J intersection D is F. Is this set clear? What we are trying to do? We are considering all ideals, okay, which contains I and not intersecting D, right? Yes or no? Yes. Now, why this chi is non-empty? Hmm? Why this collection is a non-empty collection? Can you give some element here from this statement? By seeing this statement, definitely one element is there. What is that element? Huh? Can you give an ideal? Yes, I satisfies this condition, right? Is that clear? Because I intersection D is empty is already given to us. So this is non-empty because I belongs to this, right? Now, of course, on this you can define a partial ordering as set inclusion. Okay, so this is a poset. What is this relation? Is set inclusion, normal set inclusion. Okay, if A is subset of B, then A is related B, right? And on this poset, we will consider a, because to apply John's lemma, what we want to show, every chain here should have a upper bound, right? So say let C be a chain in this car, and what we want to show, we want to show that this has an upper bound. Okay, so obviously because it is collection of sets, so what should be the upper bound? You consider or take, you call it some M, which is equal to union of C. That means take all elements from that chain and take the union of those elements. Okay, is that clear? Hmm? Remember, what are all elements in chain? They are all ideals. Is this clear? What are all elements in chain? They are all ideals, right? So this is nothing but we are taking union of all those ideals which are there in that chain. Yes or no? Whether you are following, what is our M? Our C is a chain in this poset, and this collection is nothing but all ideals satisfying some condition. So obviously this chain is also a collection of some ideals, right? Then we are taking all those union of those ideals. Okay, we are going to show that this M is a member here. M belongs to chi. Okay, M belongs to. Now once we show that M belongs to chi, that means M is also a member here. Then C has an upper bound or not? This M is an upper bound for this chain C. Whether our M, whatever we have defined here, is an upper bound for C or not? Hmm? That much at least you can able to tell. The way we have considered M, is it an upper bound of for this chain C or not? Hmm? What is meant by saying something is an upper bound? Every element of that set should be less than or equal to this, right? But here you have taken all union of all those elements. So obviously, they are all less than or equal to this element or not? Yes or no? Huh? Yes. Yes. So it is enough if we show that this M is actually belongs to this set. So therefore, upper bound exists in that collection, right? Then we can apply John's lemma. Okay. What is meant by saying that M is in this collection? When we say that M is here, first of all, it should be an ideal and it should contain I and does not intersect D. Okay. So first we prove that M is an ideal. To show that M is an ideal, we want to show that take any two elements, okay? Then we want to show that their join is also there, right? So if A and B are in M, M is nothing but union of this. So therefore A is in union, also B is in union. That means what we will get? Then there exists, I can call it some notation we give. I can call it suppose some X and Y which are ideals, okay, in this C such that what we can conclude that A is in X and B is in Y, because A belongs to M, so A is there in this union. That means A is there in some one of the element. That is our X, and B is also there, so B is in Y. Right? But X and Y are in C, and C is a chain. Since C is a chain, what can you say about X and Y? What is the definition of a chain? Huh? If you sit like this silently, I am not going to. Huh? Your voice is not proper. Somebody else will answer. Huh? The other student has some mic problem. So other students reply, what is meant by saying chain? When we say that something is a chain. Huh? Very good. Any two elements are comparable. So now X and Y are in C. What can you say about that? Either X is less than or equal to Y, or Y is less than or equal to X, right? So therefore, A is in X and B is in Y. That means what we can say, both A and B are in X, or both A and B are in Y. This much we can conclude, right? Now, because X and Y are elements of C and they are all ideals, so therefore this X and Y are ideal. That shows that A join B is either in X or A join B are in Y, right? Okay. So in any case, that because if they are members here and M is union of such things, so you can claim that A join B is in M. Are you following? Hmm? Any problem up to here? No. Okay. Uh, right now, what we want to show? To show ideal, you take any element. Okay. Let A belongs to M and call it some X less than or equal to E. Then we want to show that X is also in M. Then it will become ideal, right? That is one of the equivalent definition of an ideal, right? Since A is in M, there exists some X in C such that A is in X, but X is what? X is an ideal, right? So X is an ideal, right? And X is less than or equal to A. This implies what you can, X is ideal and A is an X. That means every element less than or equal to that is also there. That shows that X is in X. That means X is in M, because M is union of all such ideals, right? Therefore, M is an ideal. Okay, right. Now, why this M contains I? Why M contains I? Because each C is an ideal here, right? C belongs to X here, right? So each C contains I, right? So as for every C in C contains I, okay, we get what we will have. Union of this also contains, right? So therefore M contains I. Is this step clear? Huh? Every C here contains I, so obviously M is union of those things, it also contains I. Now why M intersection D is empty? Again, also for every C in C intersection D is empty, right? This implies union of C intersection D is again empty, right? But using distributive, you can easily see that this is same as union of C, okay, then intersection D. This is empty, but union of C is nothing but our M. So M intersection D is M. That shows that our M belongs to chi, right? That therefore our M belongs to chi. So M belongs to chi is an upper bound, for this chain C, right? Is an upper bound for C, right? Therefore, by John's lemma, what we can conclude, because here every chain has an upper bound, we can claim that this chi has a maximal element. Okay, we will let that P be a or be the maximal element. Okay, so what is the meaning of this P is maximal? We are saying here P is a first of all it is a member here and it satisfies this condition, right? That means this implies P contains I and P intersection D is M. What is remaining to prove now? In this theorem statement, if we see, we want to prove that there exists a prime ideal. Okay, we already got some ideal satisfying this condition. We'll show that that ideal, whatever we got, is actually a maximal ideal, right? So our claim is, so we will show that now this P, whatever we got, is prime ideal. What is meant by saying it is prime ideal? Whenever whenever so we'll prove this by suppose contradiction. Suppose P is not prime. What is meant by saying something is not prime ideal? Huh? If we recall the definition of prime ideal, whenever A meet B belongs to P, then either A is in P or B is in P. So it is not prime ideal means what? There exists A comma B two elements, okay, in L such that what we will get? A meet B is in P, but A is not in P, also B is not in P. Is this clear? When we say something is not prime ideal, there are two elements whose meet is there, but none of them is there. Is this clear? So somewhere we should get a contradiction to this one, right? Fine. Now, because A is not in P and B is also not in P, then you consider this P, okay, together with union, you can call it if you want. This ideal, the principal ideal, that means this, okay. What can you say about this? This is an ideal, right? Because A is not in here, it is strictly bigger than P or not? It is strictly bigger than P, right? This strictly contains this P. And similarly, P together with this principal ideal B also contains strictly P, right? Okay. Now tell me, this P is the maximal element in this set, okay? That means if we take any element bigger than that element, whether that will be in that set, whether that will be in chi, it cannot be in chi or not. This P union A and P union B, because they are strictly bigger than P and P is maximal element, not ideal, sorry, because it is P is the maximal element. So therefore, you can see that these two are not, this implies this P union A, okay, and P union B, they are not members of this chi. Are you following? Any problem? Huh? Why they are not belongs to chi? Because if at all they belongs to chi, then we get a contradiction to maximality of P, right? So therefore they are not members here. So they are not members here means this one of these conditions should fail, right? But because P already contains I, so P union A also contains I, so there is no problem with this. So only problem is this intersection is empty is the problem. Therefore their intersection cannot be empty. This implies what you can write, this P union A intersection D is non-empty, okay, and similarly P union B intersection D is also non-empty. Is this clear? No, because if at all their intersection is empty, then they belongs to chi actually, which is not true. So therefore their intersection is non-empty. When we say that something is non-empty, there exists an element here which is also in D. Similarly, there exists an element here which is also in D. Right? This implies there exists, I can call it some P comma Q belongs to P such that this P join, okay, this is join, right? P join A, because there is an element here, right? P join A, P join A, okay, this belongs to here, okay, then that should also belongs to here, so you can call it like D, and Q join B should belongs to D, right? Is that clear? Oh, fine. This implies now since D is dual ideal, so whenever two elements are there in a dual, then their meet is also there, okay, then you call it as some Z, which is meet of those two elements, okay, is also in D, right? But we'll try to simplify Z and see what we'll get by using distributivity. But Z is same as, so you take this as simply one element, okay, just like X meet this, what is that will become? That will be same as X meet Q join with X meet B. That means P join A meet with Q, okay, join with P join A, okay, meet with B, right? Any problem? Now again this internally we can apply distributive property. What it says is that P meet Q join with A meet Q. And similarly if you write here, yeah, right? Similarly if we write here, this is P meet B, right? Then join with, this is A. So this is A meet B, right? Okay. Now let's see where are all these elements belong. This A meet B is in P, right? Okay, so what we are trying to show is that this Z is already in D by dual. If we can show that this Z is in P, we get a contradiction because our P intersection D is empty. So the idea is whether Z, this whatever we have written here, join of four elements, whether that belongs to P is the question or not. So A meet B belongs to P, that is already assumed here, right? A meet B belongs to P. Now what about P meet B? Huh? What about P meet B? Because P is in Q, P comma Q are in P. So therefore, all these elements, this is in P, this is in P, and this is in P, right? Because of ideal property. Are you following? They are all less than or equal to either P or Q, right? And P and Q both are in P, so therefore they are all belongs to P, and this is already given to us, right? So what we are getting here is that Since P is an ideal, we get P meet Q, A meet Q. This is A and the other one is Q, okay? And P meet B. They all belongs to P. Also, what is given to us is that A meet B belongs to P, right? And again, using the fact that it is an ideal, that means Z belongs to P, because if two elements are there, then their join is also there for an ideal, right? But which is a contradiction. This means Z belongs to P intersection D. This is a contradiction, right? Because our P intersection D is M. That contradiction arises because we have assumed that suppose this is not a prime ideal, right? And hence it has to be prime ideal, right? Therefore, P is a prime ideal. So we got a prime ideal containing I and not intersecting D. That proves this Stone's theorem. Is proof clear? Any problem? This is a very useful theorem, and this is going to play crucial role in proving that uh, any distributive lattice is isomorphic to ring of sets. Right? Is this proof clear? Okay. Now let's see some corollaries to this result. The corollary one, there are simple one. Okay, so let L be a distributive lattice. Our L is distributive, and let I be an ideal. Okay, and A belongs to L such that A is not in I. Okay, then there exists a prime ideal. Then there exists a prime ideal P. Okay, such that P contains I and P contains I and A is not in P. Okay, so what it says is that if we have any ideal and some element is outside that, then there exists a prime ideal. Okay, there exists a prime ideal containing I and also not containing that element. Is statement clear? And proof is very, very simple. Can you think of how it follows from this corollary? What this says corollary, what is theorem statement? Whenever you have an ideal I and a dual ideal D whose intersection is empty, then there exists a prime ideal containing I not intersecting D, right? So in this statement below, this statement, we have I already ideal is given, I is given, and some information extra is given that A is not in I. So using this, can you get some dual ideal? Because in this statement, so far we don't have any dual ideal here. So can you get some dual ideal D such that I intersection D is empty? No, I have given maximum hints. You have to only say what is your D. Can you give your D? What should we consider our D, which is a dual ideal? So that I and D are not intersecting. If I take this one, this is a dual ideal or not? If I take this D, which is all elements above A, this is a principal ideal and it is a dual ideal, right? Is that clear? So we consider this, then because A is not in I and in D every element is above A, this implies what we get here is that, so you can write here, then D is dual and I intersection D is empty. Is this clear why I intersection D is empty? Because every element in D is bigger than A or bigger than or equal to A, right? So if at all X is here, then we get that A is also here. That is the contradiction. Okay, right? Is why I intersection D is empty clear for you? If not, you tell me, I will ask. If at all X is in some I intersection D, this implies X belongs to I and also X belongs to D, which is this, right? Okay, that means our X is bigger than or equal to A. Now use the fact that I is an ideal. So if I is an ideal and an element is there, then anything below to that is also there. So you get that A is in I, but which is a contradiction, right? So therefore, no element is there in the intersection. Are you following? If at all their intersection is non-empty, we get that actually A is coming from I, which is not true because A is not in I. Okay, so then that's all. We are done now because we got a dual ideal who's not intersecting with I. This implies by the above theorem there exists a prime ideal P, okay, containing I such that P intersection D is empty. What is meant by saying P intersection D is empty? Because A is here, so A cannot be here, right? That is same as saying that because A is in D, so A can't be in P, right? So as you can say, as A is in D, this implies A cannot be in P. That proves this corollary one. It is very easy. Now what about corollary 2? The other interesting one is that take again L is a distributive lattice and A comma B are two elements, distinct elements. They are two different elements. Again, in this case, then there exists a prime ideal P, okay, containing exactly one of them, containing exactly one of A and B. So that is meaning of that what? What is the meaning of this? That is A belongs to P and B is not in P, or A is not in P and but B is in P. Okay, so both won't be there, only one of them will be there. Is this statement clear? What this theorem states? That whenever you have a distributive lattice and if you have two different elements in that, then you can always have a prime ideal which separates those two elements. That means there exists a prime ideal, A will contain B, but B won't be there, or B will be there, but A won't be there. Is statement clear? Yes or no? Yes. Now, here again, how we will get? We should have some, in this case, at least in this first corollary, at least some ideal is given. We have to only search for dual ideal. But here, I is also not given, D is also not given, right? But there are different elements that is given. Okay, we want to show that there exists a prime ideal, right? So think of this one. A and B are different. So we will try to give this is our ideal, okay, and take this. This is our dual, okay. So we don't know whether their intersection is empty or not, okay. But now again, the other different case you take is that you take this is dual ideal, okay. Then other one is this you take as ideal. So what we can claim is that if A is not equal to B, then either this is empty or this is empty. This much we can guarantee. Let me repeat. If A is not equal to B, that is given to us, then you take this one. One is the ideal, the other one is the dual ideal. Either their intersection should be empty or the other intersection should be empty. Okay, why this is true? Hmm? Suppose not means what? Suppose there exists some, this is also intersection is non-empty and this intersection is also non-empty. Then that means suppose X belongs to A intersection B, and here there is another element and some Y belongs to A intersection B. Okay, then you can prove that A is equal to B. We get why? From here what we will get? X is in this one means what we will get quickly? X is here as well as X is here, but this says that X is less than or equal to A, right? And here X is bigger than or equal to B, right? So you get that your X is less than or equal to A, bigger than or equal to B. So you get like this here. That means we are getting B is less than or equal to A. Now what is meaning of saying this one? Your Y is less than or equal to B. Okay. And Y is bigger than or equal to A. So this means we are getting A is equal to B, which is a contradiction. Is this clear? If simultaneously this is also non-empty and this is also non-empty, we get that A is equal to B. So therefore, at least one of them is empty. Are you following? Their intersection, at least one of them is empty. So if suppose this is A intersection B is empty, then what is our I? Our I is this principal ideal and D is this dual principal ideal, right? So this implies, then again, then there exists a prime ideal P such that, okay, P contains this I. That means A belongs to P. Let me write this such that this ideal is contained in P and this intersection P intersection D is M. But that is same as saying that A is in P and B is here, so B cannot be here. So B is not in, right? Similarly, if the other case is empty, then we get the other way around. Are you following? But this statement is very, very useful, which says that in a distributive lattice, if two elements are different, then we can separate them by a prime ideal. Are you following? Yes or no? Yes or no? Huh? Any difficulty? Okay. So one more corollary we will prove, which says that in a distributive lattice, so you consider L is distributive lattice, then any ideal, any ideal I, any ideal in L is the intersection of all prime ideals containing I. Okay, this is I. Intersection of all prime ideals containing this I. That is same as saying that we want to prove that I is equal to intersection of prime ideals P is containing I. Is statement clear? So if you see all three statements, we are relating with prime ideals, right? So this, if something is a distributive lattice, then we are having this corollary, right? What we will show is that let J is intersection of all prime ideals containing I. We will show that J is equal to I. Okay, our claim is we will show that this J is equal to I. Then we are done, right? Now in this, that means J should be contained in I and I should be contained in J. So one is always true, trivially true. What is that? Huh? What we know about these prime ideals? Each prime ideal here contains I, right? So since for every prime ideal P, whatever we are having here, P contains I, what we can say about that? Intersection of P also contains I. Huh? If every set in that contains I, then obviously intersection also contains I. That means J contains I. Is this clear? Right? So we want to only show that J is contained in I. Okay? Or J is equal to I. Okay? So suppose assume that J is strictly bigger than I. We want to show that J is actually equal to I. Suppose J is strictly bigger than I. If that means if they are not equal, then we should get somewhere a contradiction. Okay? Are you following what we are doing? That means what is the meaning of saying that it is strictly bigger? This implies there exists some A in J which is here but not here. Are you following? But A is not in I. Are you following? If at all it is strictly bigger than I, because we got that J contains I. If at all J strictly contains I, that means J and I are not equal, then there exists an element in J but which is not in I. Okay. Now here we got I is an ideal and there is an element which is not in I. So by corollary, what we can have from this corollary? This corollary. There exists a prime ideal. Corollary 1, what we have? There exists a prime ideal containing I but not containing that element. Are you following? So here this implies there exists a prime ideal. You can call it some Q, okay, containing this I, okay, such that A is not in Q. A is not in. Are you following? Right? But because Q contains I and Q is a prime ideal, it is in this collection or not? It is in this collection. Are you following? What is our J? J is take all prime ideals containing I, then you take the intersection. Right? Is this clear? Now, because J is intersection of all prime ideals, J is contained in P. J is contained in every such prime ideal or not? Huh? See, J is something like some P intersection Q, suppose. Then J is contained in P as well as J is contained in Q, right? So what you can conclude about Q and J here? Huh? This implies J is contained in Q. Is this step clear why J is contained in Q? Because J is the smallest, right? J is contained in all such prime ideals containing I. So in particular now we have Q which contains I, which is a prime ideal. So therefore J is contained in Q, right? Are you following? This implies now as A belongs to J, we get that A belongs to Q, which is a contradiction that to these two. Is this clear? One way we are getting that A is not in Q and the other way we are getting that A is in Q. That contradiction arises because we have assumed that J is strictly contains I, which is not true. So therefore J has to be equal to I. Therefore J should be equal to I, right? That means I is equal to intersection of all prime ideals containing I. Are you following? Yes or no? So these are all the corollaries we have proved. All follows from Stone's theorem, which says that if you have an ideal and a dual ideal which does not meet both, then there is a prime ideal containing I but not intersecting D. Is this clear? Okay. Now, we with these things we prove the following. That is what. So now we are ready to prove the theorem that is due to Birkhoff. What it says is that a lattice is distributive if and only if and only if it is isomorphic to it is isomorphic to ring of sets. We have defined last class what is meant by ring of sets, and we also shown for finite case, right? We have shown for finite case or not? If you go here, in this case, we have seen that, see here, this is the theorem that L is finite distributive lattice, then L is isomorphic to H of J of L, okay? But our H of J of L is ring of sets, so therefore, you can see here, yeah. So what we have proved in this case that every finite distributive lattice is isomorphic to ring of sets, and now with the help of those, while proving here we have used join irreducible elements. Now we will prove this more general statement that whether that is our given lattice is finite or infinite. If it is distributive, then it is isomorphic to ring of sets. The other way is obvious. If it is isomorphic to ring of sets, by definition, ring of sets, it is closed under union and intersection, so it automatically satisfies distributive property. So only one way you have to consider. That means if it is a distributive lattice, we want to show that it is isomorphic to ring of sets. Is statement clear? Hmm? So we want to show that if, so let L be a distributive lattice. It doesn't take much time. So we prove this and then we'll start. Let L be a distributive lattice. We want to show that somehow L is isomorphic to some X where X is ring of sets. Okay. Fine. For any A belongs to, so how we do there, if you remember, there also we have dealt with some R of A, right? That is all irreducible elements below to A, below to A. So here we will deal with prime ideas. So how we do that? For any A belongs to L, okay, denote R of A as a prime ideal. P is prime. This P, okay, which is a prime ideal, such that it does not contain that given element A. What is our R of A? It is, that is, this is set of, that is R of A is nothing but set of all prime ideals not containing A. Is this clear? So our R of A is what here? It is set of prime ideals. They don't contain A, right? Now you call it X. X is nothing but all such sets. For every A in A, for every A in L, you take R of A. That is our X. Okay. Now we define a map. Define phi map from X, L to X. Okay. L to X by obviously what is the map? Phi of A if you define as R of A. There also we have defined phi of A as R of A only, right? In finite case also, but only in finite case we have join irreducible elements concept. Here we have prime ideal concept. Okay. We'll show that first of all this phi is an isomorphism and X is ring of sets. Then this will become isomorphic to ring of sets. Is this clear? What we are going to do it? We'll show that phi is an isomorphism and X, whatever we have considered, it is actually ring of sets. That means it should be closed under union and intersection, right? Okay. So clearly this phi is onto. Why clearly phi is onto? Because R of X contains all such elements R of A where A is coming from L. Is this clear? So by the way, it is clearly onto. To show 1 1, to show phi is 1 1, We'll show that if you have two different elements, then their images are different. Okay. So to do that, let A comma B belongs to L such that A is not equal to B. That means we are taking two different elements from L. Right? Then what we want to show? We want to show that R of A is different from R of B. R of A is not equal to R of B. Right? So now how we can proceed? Can somebody tell how we can go through it? Using this? Using this, what will be our next step? Because what is R of A? R of A is somehow, it is prime ideals, not containing A. So from this point, how we will get some ideals? Prime ideal is the question. By corollary. Very good. What is that corollary says? Whenever you have in a distributive lattice, if two elements are different, this corollary too. There exists a prime ideal containing exactly one of them. So therefore here what we can write? We can write since L is distributive, there exists a prime ideal P such that it contains only one of them. That means A is in P, but B is not in P. Or also it may be possible that B is in P, but A is not in P. Right? P is a prime ideal, right? Which satisfies this condition. This implies what you can do from this is same as saying that what? B is not in P, therefore where is B? In form of R. If B is not in P, then that prime ideal belongs to R of B. Are you following? Right? Now A is in P. So because A is in P, so that P cannot be in R of A. Right? When P, some prime ideal will be in there, if that element is not there. So therefore, this same statement, how you can write? P is not in R of A. Okay? But this B is in R of this P. Sorry, that is not B. This P. This P is in R of. Is this clear? Are you following? Whatever we have written here, that is same as saying this one. Yes or no? Because A is in P, so P cannot be in R of P. And B is not in P, so therefore P is in R of P. Or the second line, what it says? Because B is in P, so P is not in R of B, but because A is not in P, so P is in R of B. So one of them is always true, right? Is this clear? What is the meaning of this saying that? Can you say that R of A is not equal to R of B? From this one, can you say that R of A is not equal to R of B when we say that two sets are different? If at least one element is here but not here. Is this clear? Are you following? So P will be in R of B, which is not in R of A. Or P will be in R of A but not in R of B. So therefore R of A is different from R of B, which says that phi is 1, 1. Are you following? So, and also clearly it is onto, so therefore phi is bijective. Right? Now we'll show that phi is a homomorphism. To show that phi is a homomorphism, what we want to show is that phi of A join B is equal to, first we will show that R of A join B, R of A join B will show that is same as R of A union R of B. Okay. Then the other one we will show that R of A meet B is R of A intersection R of B. If we prove these two, then this is our claim 1 and our claim 2. If we prove these two, then actually it proves two things. One, phi is a homomorphism, and not only that, X, whatever we are considered here, it is a ring of sets. Okay. First we will prove this, then we go further. What is our claim? R of A join B is this. So we want to show that this is contained here and here, right? So let's prove that. First one, let X belongs to see, it is a prime, it is a collection of prime ideals, right? So let P belongs to R of A join B. That means what? P is a prime ideal, right? Not containing that element. Therefore, A join B is not in P. Are you following? Yes or no? Huh? What is our R of A? R of A contains prime ideals not containing that element. So P is in R of A join B means A join B is not in that ideal, right? From this, can you see that A is not in P or B is not in P? Why? You don't even require for this prime ideal. Why A is not in P or B is not in P? Huh? If at all A is in P and B is also in P and P is an ideal, so what you will get? That join is also in P, right? Are you following? So because if A is in P and B is also in P, then A join B is in P because P is an ideal. We don't require prime ideal also here. Just P is an ideal, as P is an ideal, right? So therefore, one of them should not be in P. That shows that if A is not in P, so P is in R of A or P is in R of B. Okay, that shows that if P is in R of A join B, then P is in R of A union R of B, right? The other way, let P belongs to R of A union R of B. That means what we get here? This implies either P is in R of A or P is in R of B. Actually, you can write this both implication. That's fine. So P is in R of A or P is not in R of B. P is in R of A or P is in R of B means A is not in P or B is not in P. Okay. So if A is not in P or B is not in P, we can easily say that A join P is not in P. But again, the same fact you can use it. Huh? If at all A join P, if at all, if A join B is in P, then we get that because it is an ideal, A is in P and B is also in P. This is contradiction. Why? Why A will be in P? In an ideal, whenever we have an element, then all elements below to that are also there or not. So A and B are below to A join P, so therefore they are also there, but we know that A and B, one of them is not there. Is this clear? Okay. So therefore, if A join B is not in P, that shows that P belongs to R of A join. So that proves the claim one, that R of A join B is equal to R of A union R of B. In both the cases, in this proving first one, we have not used actually prime ideal. We have used only ideal is sufficient. Then let's prove the second claim. What is our second claim? That R of A intersection B is R of A intersection R of A meet B is equal to R of A intersection R of B. Okay. So again, let P belongs to R of A meet B. What is the meaning of this? This implies A meet B is not in P. Okay. Then what we can claim? This implies A is not in P, and B is why? Why? Now here again you don't require primary. See, if one of them is true, that means if A is in P or B is in P, okay, then obviously anything smaller than that will be in P or not. But A meet B is not in P, we know. So how will argue here? Here also we are not using prime ideal. If A is in P or B is in P, then A meet B we will get, because it is less than or equal to A or less than or equal to B, We get that it is in P, but we know that A meet B is not in P. Is this clear? Okay. So that shows that P is in R of A, P is in R of B, right? So that proves that R of A meet B is contained in R of A intersection R of B. The other way, now let P belongs to R of A intersection R of B. This implies what we know, A is not in P and B is not in P. From this, you will see that A meet B is not in P, right? Why? Here we use the fact that since P is prime ideal. Are you following? In a prime ideal, if two elements are not there, then their meet is also not there. Is this clear? Are you following? Yes or no? Yes. Yes. So in all cases, we prove that they are equal, right? But only in one case we use it is prime ideal. Remaining all places, just ideal is sufficient. So we proved claim 1 and claim 2, right? So therefore, our phi is an isomorphism because it is a homomorphism and bisective. So therefore, phi is an isomorphism. That means L is isomorphic to X. Now it is enough if we see that whatever X we have considered is actually ring of sets, right? What is our X? Is R of E and stuff, right? Now X is also X is ring of sets. Why ring of sets? Because if at all two elements, that means R of A and R of B belongs to X, then because if R of A comma R of B belongs to X, then what we want to prove to show that it is ring of sets? Huh? Their union and their intersection we want to show, right? Then R of A union R of B. Just now what we have proved, R of A union R of B. We proved that R of A union R of B is R of A join B, right? R of A join B. Now can you see that R of A join B belongs to X? Why R of A join B belongs to X? What is X? X is nothing but for every element A in L, you have R of A, right? So question is whether A join B belongs to L. Since A join B belongs to L, so therefore R of A join B belongs to X, right? And what is R of A intersection R of B? Whatever we have proved is nothing but R of A meet B. This also belongs to X because L is a lattice. So A join B and A meet B belongs to L. Are you following? So we have proved that L is isomorphic to X and X is ring of sets. So therefore every distributive lattice, no matter whether it is finite or infinite, is isomorphic to ring of sets. Is this clear? Any problem? Huh? Any problem? That's it. Any problem or not? No problem? So we just conclude with just a corollary. So to define a corollary, whatever we have ring of sets, we can simply define what is meant by field of sets. So subset, okay, X of some P of A, okay, is called field of sets. Obviously, what should be your guess? In ring of sets, we have expected union and intersection. So in field of sets, apart from union and intersection, what we should expect? Complement also, right? If we'll write this as S so that you can. If X belongs to S, then X complement should also belongs to S, okay? And A comma B or X comma Y, if you can write. X comma Y belongs to S, then X union Y and X intersection Y belongs to X. So field of set means it should be closed with respect to those three operations, namely union, intersection, and complement. In ring of sets, it should be closed with respect to two operations, union and intersection. Okay. Is there any problem? So now, as a corollary, what we show is that a lattice is Boolean. Whether you remember what is meant by Boolean lattice? There, the complement is also one more extra. Other than meet and join, you also have complement, right? So a lattice Boolean if and only if it is isomorphic to field of set. Okay. So distributive, then it is isomorphic to field of rings, ring of sets, and it is Boolean if and only if it is isomorphic to field of sets. It is not at all difficult. If it is already Boolean, then we know it is distributive. So therefore, it is closed already with respect to that same X you take, same L, same X, whatever we are considering here, that you take. So X is our, let L is Boolean, okay, and you take X as R of A, where A is in L, and what is R of A? Same, whatever we have seen there. Then by previous result, we know that L is isomorphic to X because L is Boolean. So in particular, L is distributive. So therefore, L is isomorphic to X. Up to here, is it clear? Huh? We have done nothing. We have only used that L is distributive and X is that collection. Therefore, L is isomorphic to X. Now, because L is Boolean, this X will become now field of sets. Why? Here also X is field of sets because, so that those two operations we don't need to discuss again, because if you call it, suppose R of A belongs to X, then we want to show that its complement, R of A complement, is also in X, right? If R of A belongs to X, then what is meant by R of A whole complement? What is this? What is R of A? All prime ideals, okay? All prime ideals not containing A. So what is its complement? All prime ideals such that it contains prime ideal. Is this clear? Are you following? What is R of A? R of A is all prime ideals not containing A. So what is its complement? All prime ideals containing that point. Is this clear? But this is same as, right? This is same as P, which is a prime ideal. If A is not there, means A complement, okay, is not in P. If A is in P, obviously A complement is not in P, right? Now, can you tell me this one in terms of R? What is this set? These are all prime ideals not containing A complement. So, therefore, this is same as R of A complement or not? Is this step clear? Huh? Yes. So, therefore, what we have proved is that R of A complement is nothing but R of A complement. But this belongs to X. R of A complement belongs to X because L is, our L is Boolean. So A belongs to L and L is Boolean, implies A complement also belongs to L. So that means it is closed with respect to complementation. So therefore R of A complement belongs to X. That proves that our X is field of set. Therefore our Boolean lattice is isomorphic to field of set. We'll stop here and we'll see in next class. Okay.